I call the honourable member Dr. Paul Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome.
Gives me great pleasure to speak on this Advanced Technology Institute bill, which again is a landmark in connecting science, innovation with business, with our tertiary education institutes, with Crown Research Institutes, and of course with private research institutes, and with commercialising our science and innovation, which is something that failed to happen during those 9 long years of the Labor government. Mr. Speaker, I too would like to acknowledge the huge contribution that Sir Paul Callaghan made to New Zealand science, not only to science but advancing science in New Zealand, and of course being one of the great communicators in this area, and it's absolutely right and proper that this institute will be named after him. But, Mr. Speaker, sadly we were treated to a very dismal battery from David Cunliffe, who said that we in New Zealand spend or invest about 1% of GDP on science. The fact of the matters are that for 9 long years under Labor, it was entirely static, and yet over the last 4 years there has been a significant real increase of 17% in science and innovation spending, making the total rise from 1.24 billion in 2011 to 1.16 in 2011-12 to 1.24 in 2012-13. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I thought was of great worry was when David Cunliffe suggested that nothing was happening in New Zealand, and yet we find that over the last 4 to 5 years, business research and innovation spending has increased significantly, 10% a year compound growth over the last 4 to 5 years. Under this national government, things are happening, and this ATI will indeed assist to ensure that they continue to happen at a fast growth. And this government has set very ambitious targets in this respect. As David Cunliffe pointed out, government investment or public investment as a percentage of GDP is approximately 0.57%. We have an ambition to get to 0.8% over the next few years, but he's quite right in saying that it is in the private sector that New Zealand has had a bad record, and that was particularly so for those 9 long years under Labor, and that is why it's so significant that the growth in this area has been 10% a year compound increase under National for the last 4 to 5 years. There is one other thing that did worry me when he said that the composure of the board contained no scientists. Well, there is Neville Jordan, a hugely highly recognised engineer and scientist in New Zealand, who in 1975 founded MAS Technology Limited, a telecommunications microwave company. He grew MAS to a multinational company with a successful IPO on the NASDAQ, and it's now, with its successors, earned over $1 billion in net foreign exchange for New Zealand. Who better to have on the ATI board than people like Neville Jordan? I think we can be very encouraged by the insights that the national government has in this respect. Mr. Speaker, as you know, the ATI was a key recommendation of last year's Powering Innovation report, and this report in itself was a culmination of a huge amount of thought that was put in by a variety of people in the science area, in the economics area, in the business area, and in the academic area, and I think it is going to be a great foundation for propelling this very important area into the future. As we know, part of budget 2012 was the government has allocated $160 million over 4 years for the ATI, and it's going to be situated at Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. And this is the very point that David Cunliffe was going on about, that many of our competitors overseas are investing so much more in this area of science and technology, 3 to 4 times more than New Zealand is. It's absolutely vital that we have mechanisms to ensure we have an environment or an ecosystem in New Zealand that links science and innovation with the business sector. This is exactly what the ATI is about, and Mr. Speaker, I commend this first reading to the House.
Dr. Megan Woods.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Just before I start, the member must always call. Just standing up doesn't mean to say that you're going, but I knew you were going to call, so I anticipated that.
Thank you
Dr.
for your
Megan
prescience.
Woods.
Thank you for your prescience, Mr. Speaker.
It's a big word.